right? Yeah. So Mr. Sachin is a certified neuro-linguistic programming coach, a QPR gatekeeping instructor, and a trainer of crisis intervention and emotional support. He was recently elected as the president of Befrienders India. Sachin completed his education and pursued a career in hospitality management. And in parallel, he started his association with crisis intervention and emotional support. Volunteering for 11 years in the field, Sachin founded the Connect Hut in January 2021. Once again, thank you so much, Sachin, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So this session was supposed to be hosted by Ananya, whose initiative is this. Unfortunately, she's busy and due to unforeseen circumstances, I had to be here as her fire brigade and compensate. My name is Sanjoli Banerjee, and I am Ananya's sister. I am also the director at Sarthi with her, and we co-launched this initiative. And currently, I'm doing a Master of Social Work at University of Wollongong in Australia. So let's start with today's session. Today's session is all about listening and empathy, which is so crucial in today's era when we know there are massive numbers of mental health issues in India and around the world. And when we talk about mental health issues, we only think about big things, we think about disorders directly. But we also need to, at the same time, when we talk about mental health issues, as we talk about treatment and cure, we also need to talk about promotion and prevention. And one of the key aspects of prevention of mental health issues is listening. It starts from empathy. It starts from empathetic listening. And I'm no expert on this. And so I would like to hand it over to you. First basic question to you, Sachin. How do we listen? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? And why is it important to listen?
All right. So this is the funny bit, right? Because when we talk about listening, most of us, this is literally one of the first things we started doing. Other than crying when you were born, but listening is one of the first things we started doing. It occupies approximately 45% of our daily activity in terms of communication that we go through. It involves about 45% of that activity. But what do we mean? And a lot of us feel that we are experts or we are really good listeners as well. So let me try and get into some basic differences, right? What do we mean by listening? Do we understand that listening and hearing are these two different things?
Right.
Yeah. So when I say what is the difference between hearing and listening, one of the easiest demarcations is that hearing is a physiological activity. Now, what does that mean? Basically, if we both were to just mute ourselves right now for the next 10 seconds, and if I were to ask you, can you try and pay attention to all the sounds that you can hear right now for the next 10 seconds, right? Everyone would come in with at least 3 to 4 sounds that is going on in your environment right now. There may be an AC in the background, there's a fan. You may, if you are living close to the roadways or something, you may hear a truck going by or a horn honking. You may have your colleagues who are in the next room or your family just saying something. There's some noise going on across the room. You may hear some pans banging, some dogs barking, some birds chirping. All of these sounds are existing right now as we speak. But how many of these sounds are we really conscious about? Now, I'm not asking everyone to be mindful right now, but the point being, then what is the difference between hearing and listening? Because all these sounds were there in your environment right now, but somehow you were not really aware of them, right? So if I were to ask you then, what is the difference between hearing and listening? What is it that you did differently when you began listening, right? The answer is you paid attention. It's as simple as that. The moment you start paying attention to a sound, to a source of sound, and start paying attention to it, listening has begun. right? Then we talk about passive listening and active listening. And then that is when you start going into the types of listening and things like that. Empathetic listening comes way much further down the line, right? So basically, if you're asking me a difference between listening and hearing, are you paying attention to what sound is coming and why is it important? Now, just in these past 3-5 years, maybe, uh, even CEOs, CXOs from multinational companies to your spiritual gurus to literally everyone who has a podium to speak out of, they have been calling listening to be one of the most important life skills for a person to have for the 21st century, right? Unfortunately, our mind does not go beyond the networking capacity or how is this, we don't really associate listening to help us be more productive in our careers or in our life with, I mean, when you're talking to your partner, when you're talking to your child, when you're talking to your parent, imagine if you're not actually paying attention and listening to what they're trying to say. Majority of your communication gap occurs right here. If you haven't been paying attention, all you have is limited information that you have gathered from them. And when you're replying back, what you're giving back is your synthesis of this limited information. And more often than not, this creates a communication gap. This creates the Chinese whispers, even though it is something that is trained in us for so long. But I think one of the most biggest barriers is while growing up, we are also trained in multitasking. That we feel like we need to be productive and everything. So listening and just listening, paying all our attention just to listening and listening to, for example, right now, if I'm listening to you, Sanjoli, it almost beggars belief for a lot of us, like, oh, I'm listening to her. Why can I not have my phone on at the same time? Why can I not cook at the same time? And doing these multiple activities while we are speaking to another human being, there's always something else we are doing, even if we are thinking about something as, oh God, when this finishes, I need to get Ananya and make sure she doesn't do this trick on me again, of leaving me with a conversation who I have no clue about in the last second, right? So these things, if these thoughts are there, are you really going to be listening to me? Or are you just going to be hearing what I say? Right? So this is the difference. And if you're looking for having a meaningful conversation, if you're looking to actually increase productivity in your life, ensure that your life is more efficient, because that is one more thing a lot of people are driving towards, right? If you're looking for that much more efficiency in your life, you better make sure that every moment you are listening actually counts, because every information that you did not capture leads to a miscommunication and added work for future. So you're essentially just leaving work for the future instead of handling it right now, if you had the complete piece of information, right? So this is the simplest way I can tell you why it is important.
That was great. I loved how you put it. So many pertinent points there. One, the difference between hearing and listening. To the people who just joined, we were talking about the difference between hearing and listening, and how mindfulness comes in, and how exactly, I was about to ask you this next, how in today's era, everywhere you find a job, you graduate, everywhere you find the emphasis on speaking skills, on communication skills. We never talk about listening skills. And I wanted to hear it from you on how, listening skills can be so important, especially in relationships, be it professional relationships, in personal relationships. How important is listening?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, see, it's not that I'm saying any of these things out of the blue, right? All the people that need to say about this have spoken already. You would be, you may have come across so many phrases, many of them cliched, right? If you are, if by talking, I'm only repeating what I already know, but by listening, I get to learn something more. Right? These are cliched statements that are there, but is there some truth to it? Right? If I'm only, what what we are currently living in is in a world where we need to be seen. We feel we need to be seen, we need to stand out, we need to be impactful, we need to be considered useful and productive and all of these things. And how do we do that? Oh, I can only do that by telling people that I am all of these things. Until I shout out that, look at me, I am productive, how will they know? Look at me, I am good. Unless I tell it out, how will they know? Right? We have now come to a world there's a lot of social anxiety where even on Zoom, like most of us will not be even comfortable switching on our video because, oh my God, I don't want to be seen, because everything is about being seen, being heard, and coming up with the best impression, right? Even in listening for that matter, a lot of the trainings nowadays that you find are how to look like a good listener. I don't know if that makes sense. So many of the trainings right now are focusing on what you need to look like when you're being a listener, because apparently that is more important, right?
Wow.
But unfortunately, what that makes a person do is create this fake scenario where I'm telling Sanjoli that, Sanjoli, I'm listening to you. How am I telling her? By telling her I am listening to you. Now think about this, right? If I'm really listening to you, do I really need to tell you that I'm even doing that, right? When I'm paying my complete attention on you,
Yeah.
when I'm not just focused on the words that are coming out of your mouth, but I'm really paying attention to the whole of you. Right now, I can see you're paying a lot of attention. There's some things that you like. So there's a smile coming up on your face. So that the conversation is going as per something that you're finding useful or maybe even helpful. I don't know, right? But these are subtle cues and so much information you are sending out, even by not saying a single word.
Right.
Right? So this is where listening isn't just a earful activity or what you look like when you are presenting. The first and foremost understanding we need to develop is that it is something that you do completely. It is, you use your mind, body, your complete organism as a whole to be there for another person. And until and unless we are able to do that, we're only looking like a listener. Right? To see this as an example, how many of us while you're sitting through your coursework in the classroom as well, everyone is staring at the professor. Is everyone listening though? Right? Or are they staring right through the person, through the professor, beyond the wall, and they're somewhere far away? There's a movie going on in their mind right now. Right? Is that listening? Because the professor might think, yeah, oh my God, everyone is paying attention to me. What a great day. But is it really listening? Right? Now, the point of it being that so much focus has been put up on how to be and how to look that we seem to have kind of started losing connect with how to just be. And one of the most important thing to be a listener is you to be in a space where you're open to receiving that information, where you're open to not just receiving the words or the details, but the complete information. So, for example, we break down listening. When you're listening, we break down the information that you're getting from the other person into 4 categories. First is the factual information. Factual information means just the details, right? Now, for example, if I were to tell you, Sanjoli, I fell down yesterday, right? Now, what do you know from this? It's a very factual piece of information, right? I just told you what happened, right? If I told you I fell down and scraped my knee,
right,
I'm still giving you more information. I fell down, scraped my knee, blood came out, then I put Band-Aid on top. I cleaned the wound, I put Band-Aid on top of it. I can keep on going like this, but do you see, these are all just factual information that I'm giving you. Funny thing is, you don't even know if this is true.
Right.
Right? So what are we trying to do is just understanding what is it. Hello. What we are trying to understand is the factual information that this is the factual bit. But imagine if I were to tell you, hello, thank you. Family is always good to be. Surrounded by, yeah. So now imagine if I would tell you, Sanjoli, I'm so clumsy, yeah. I fell down again yesterday and I injured many. Now, when I told you I'm clumsy, is this factual or is this my opinion?
Opinion. Yeah, your impression of yourself.
Do you see that there's a difference here? Right? Now, what I shared with you is not factual information. What I shared with you is my opinion or my thought. So when people are communicating, they share factual information. They also share meaning of what is going on with their life. Like, I have the worst life. Nobody loves me. What am I telling you here? Is this factual information? Is this thought? Now, nobody loves me. Now, I have presented this in a factual format. Nobody loves me. But this is when you may normally tend to check with the person. What do you mean nobody loves you? I love you. How can you say that? Da, 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 da. Right? But this is where we are understanding simply right now factual information, that is thought and meaning that I'm sharing. There's also the mood. When I shared it with you, how did I sound? But Sanjoli, I'm such a clumsy person, yeah. I fell down again yesterday. Right? Now, there is some distress that you could have sensed here, that I'm not too happy when I'm saying this. Do you see, this is non-verbal information, but what I'm giving you here is my emotional state or my mood. This is the third piece of information I'm giving. How I'm saying it, right? Now, if I were to just say, I'm sorry. Or if I were to say, I'm sorry. Or if I were to say, I'm sorry. Right?
They're all different.
How? I use the same three words. Right? But do you see how the meaning kept on changing every time I said it? The first time, he's sorry. I don't know. What does he mean by that? You were just confused. Right? Second time I said, I'm sorry. Oh, did he do something wrong right now? Should I check the system? Did he mess up somewhere? He sounded apologetic. But the third time when I said it, it almost sounded like a correction. I'm not too happy. It could even be a threat. Hey, tell me again. What did you just tell me again? Right? It could be like a threat even. But the words I use, well, I am sorry. Right? So emotional state, mood conveys a lot of information as well. The tone in which you are saying it, all of these depict the mood and the emotional state of a person. And then finally, there's the fourth component. Now, this is the component, unfortunately, a lot of us don't reach out to. But unfortunately, this is also where empathetic listening begins. The fourth component is the feelings that a person has. Now, you must have said, Sachin, the way you said it, it was conveying feeling. No, unfortunately, earlier when I was saying I'm sorry and all of these different ways, I was saying it in a way that described to you some level of awareness on my mood. But what feelings mean are individual feelings that make up your mood, if that makes sense. So right now, you may have to.
Could I please request Mr. Chirag to mute themselves?
Oh, you can just mute them as well.
Yeah, I did that. Sorry.
Right? No worries. Now, this is a simple classification that a lot of us are not able to make. For example, if you were walking down the street, Sanjani, and you saw a person was crying, what would come to your mind?
Oh, why are they crying?
Why are they crying? Is something bad happened? Are they sad? Right? Now, imagine if okay, I'll ask you this question. Have you ever cried when you're sad?
Yes.
Yes, obviously, right? Have you ever cried when you have been angry?
Yes, that's happened.
Okay. Have you ever cried when you have been happy?
Yes.
Oh God. Have you ever cried when you have been scared?
Yeah.
So what does crying mean?
All of these things, probably.
But is it all of those things at that same time with the person?
No.
No, probably not. So what crying means essentially, or for that matter, any way you are expressing yourself, by laughing, by shouting, by screaming, right? And I can ask the same question to you for all of the above. Have you ever laughed out loud when you were really sad? Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Have you ever laughed out loud when you have been really scared? Oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
So what do these reactions mean? Are they really meaning the exact same thing that we assume them to be? Is it laughing always depicting happiness? Am I always going to shout with when I'm joy or when I'm angry? Or can I even shout out when I'm really sad? So what do we first need to understand from the mood state is it only means that the person is overwhelmed. You cry, you scream, you shout, you even go completely quiet for all of the above. But what these things essentially mean is that you have been overwhelmed with a lot of feelings. Because in any given experience, you experience a lot of feelings. Like even if I was sitting on the road crying, right? I had a breakup, right? But it's not a simple heartbreak or me feeling sad that is only going on. I may be worried, what is she doing right now? Is she cheating on me? So there is anxiety as well. Or did she cheat on me? There is a fear, insecurity, all of these things coming up as well. There is sadness as well.
Yeah.
There is grief from thinking about what future I had planned and dreamed and made for the future. All of that has broken down. There is grief for that. Right? There may be some anger as well in between, thinking that if she doesn't love me, I don't care. But you see, these are all multiple feelings that make up your mood. That is there, which then when it gets overwhelmed, you see a reaction. Right? Now, the aim is what I wanted to kind of get to is, and hopefully towards empathetic listening as well, is being able to identify these individual feelings. This is when empathy starts. It has got nothing to do with wearing other person's shoes.
The generic definition we're always told.
Yes, but something that I haven't read in any book. Right? So understanding this, that empathy would involve you first and foremost recognizing the feelings. And tell me, Sanjoli, just by looking at the person crying, are you able to recognize those feelings?
Not at all.
Right? What needs is a conversation for you to be open to listen to the person so that they are able to tell you how they are feeling. Many a times, even we don't know how we are feeling. If I were to ask this entire group right now, how are you guys feeling? How many of you would just say, okay, good, fine, all right. Now tell me, are these feelings? No. Right? These are not feelings. When I am talking about feelings, I'm talking about the specific emotions that you're experiencing right now. And that awareness takes time to build because we have just not ever had a vocabulary towards feelings. We have never tried to train ourselves on that. And that is the main reason why a lot of us do not even go to this fourth component of listening. Right? So sorry for the really long-winded answer, but to kind of understand, give us an entry point into empathetic listening as well. First, knowing what empathy even counts. And your empathy is not even begun if you don't know what they're feeling. And for you, and tell me, what is the best way to know anything from a person?
To ask them.
There you go. It's not rocket science. All you need to do
Absolutely.
is just ask them.
You made it so simple for us. The way you put it across, I was fully consumed by what you were saying. Couldn't think of anything else. It was so interesting, so simple. I wish we had this mental health training at school. These things we are learning as adults now. We should have been taught, and I regret this. These
We
simple
don't have to. We just can.
Yeah, because never too late. I'm glad this is happening. But every point that you said, it made so much sense on how, for everyone who joined now, I'll just quickly give a summary on how, Sachin talked about the difference between hearing and listening, and how there's something called non-verbal communication, wherein you just don't listen to a person's words, but actually as a person as a whole. Their body language, how attentive they are, if they're listening, if they're interested, how they're behaving, stuff like that. And then how there are four major things to listening. There are four components. One is factual, when a person is presenting facts. Then there is an opinion attached a lot of times on how they feel about that fact, and the mood with which they're expressing that opinion and factual information. And finally, the feelings that we don't generally get to. This was very, very interesting and very helpful in understanding what listening is. I would also like to ask you, what barriers do we have, when it comes to listening? What do you think are contemporary barriers that we as Gen Z face, especially, or our parents face?
I don't want to comment on Gen Z, because it would be like everyone. They are the I think the easiest scapegoats to attack, right? So this is not something that I don't want to join the bandwagon there.
Okay, fair.
I don't want to assume that I know what they are thinking or dealing with as well. However, in terms of just breaking down some of the barriers that we think about when listening, think about your physical state right now, right? Something as simple as, if you're feeling hot right now, are you going to pay attention in the classroom?
No, I'll be
right? Your attention, your attention is like, oh my God, when is the AC going to start working? Are you going to be paying attention? So the physical state you're in, for example, if you're thirsty, if you're hungry, right? Your physiological state as well, your environment, is it noisy, loud? Because many a times we don't prepare ourselves before listening. If I know I'm going to be listening to someone, have I helped myself to be a good listener? If I am, for example, if I'm traveling right now, I'm supposed to be catching a local train, and then I call someone to have a conversation, and I'm expecting to be a listener. Is that really going to work? No. Right? Environmental things can even be, you have your Instagram on while you're talking. Right? You put the person on speaker, you're just, I'm just scrolling. That doesn't matter. I can still pay attention, right? No, you are not paying attention. In fact, many a times the other person would even ask you, are you there? When these things happen, right? So making sure, first of all, that I'm paying complete attention. Now, anything that stops you from giving that complete attention is a barrier. Now, it can be your environment. It can be your physiological state. It can be your mental state. Now, if I just had a fight with my family, mom ne abhi डांट दिया है, ठीक है? After that, my younger sister is coming and is like, oh, Didi, I have got a problem. I want to talk to you. And like, I'm fuming right now, right? Are you really going to be a good listener to the person? No? So mental state. So how you are right now, how your mood is as well, right? If you have your physiological state, for example, can also involve mental and emotional state. It can also involve, if you have been like working a 20-hour shift and now you're exhausted, can you be a good listener then? No. So identifying these things about yourself, first of all, is my mental state, my physical state in accordance? Am I able to be a listener, first of all, right? It can also, other set of things that can come in the way, and it's a major thing that comes in the way are your biases that you may have, right? Now, example, if I identify as a liberal, right? So I'm completely liberal, I'm completely left-winged in that manner. I'm high on individualism. I am high on individual rights. Now, if I'm having a conversation with someone, so more often than not, if you're going to tag yourself or identify as a liberal or left-winged and things like that, then there are no certain other things that are almost clubbed into it. Like, for example, you may be open to feminism. You may be open to LGBTQ ally and rights of LGBTQ allies. You may be more pro-choice, right? So these things are kind of covered in the left-wing ideologies that are kind of there. Now, for example, imagine if you're going to talk to a family member who's right-wing. Now, what does right-wing or conservative mean? They are, instead of individualistic focus, they have a more socialistic focus. It's more about what's the family, what's the country, what's the nation, what's the collective identity that we have? How is this going to be helpful for them, right? You're more likely to be, instead of pro-choice, you will be more pro-life, for example. You may not necessarily quite understand or relate with LGBTQ rules or allies, especially if you have not done the scientific study or stuff like that. It may be much more easier for you to conclude that homosexuality is a sin, for example, or any other different grades on it. But again, I don't mean to generalize the entire thing. I'm just trying to talk about these are certain things that stand out when such conversations happen. Right? Now, if I'm a homophobe, right, and I'm going to talk to someone who is an ally.
Right.
Now tell me, how is this communication going to work out?
There will be a clash.
There will be a clash. Now the clash is in opinions, my mind's what I believe in.
Right.
But do you see, for the person to come in with that particular opinion, they are coming in with their life experience. That particular opinion is a result of their life and their unique life experiences that have got them here. And there's one thing for sure, a 5-minute conversation with you is not going to change that. Right? But somehow, because we have that bias, and this is a bias as well, that as soon as we decide something is right or wrong, please understand you are biased. No matter how obvious the topic may be. Because the moment you say something is wrong, you please be assured that there are people who believe that is right. Just with the same conviction that you have, even more. Right? So understanding that when you're listening to someone and these biases can come up, are we able to keep our biases to ourselves? That what I'm looking to hear from the other person is the information that they have to share with me. Not vice versa, not the other way around. Because if I'm saying I'm going to listen to Sanjoli, I better be open to listening to whatever she is going to share, whatever her life experiences have given her. It is not up to me to negate that or tell her that she's wrong in that, even though I may believe it to the core of my existence that this is wrong, right? But knowing that, giving them that space that their life experience has made them come to this conclusion, and not challenging that, because you challenge that, you are going to get a defensive person. You may have completely shut them up with your arguments, which are completely logical and all of that. But the person still doesn't agree with you. So what's the point? Right? So the idea is communication involves that disagreement is the natural part of communication, and let that be. Let there be open to disagreements. So this is where you can work with biases as well. Knowing that this person does not become bad or wrong because they have an opinion. I am able to accept that their opinion is different from mine, maybe even diametrically opposite to mine, but they are coming from their space. I can share my disagreement. I can share my thoughts on it. But expecting the other person to take it at face value, this is something that I need to stop. That's why listening has stopped. Right? So mainly you're looking at physical, environmental, mental, and emotional and biases. Biases are, however, the predominant reasons why we don't listen to someone.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. So these were the barriers that, when we listen to someone, these are the barriers that Sachin talked about that we might face. And I think it's totally normal to be confronted by those barriers, to experience those barriers. But what is important is to be aware that you are facing those barriers and you need to work on them. a lot of times we are so consumed by our own thoughts that we don't understand that, these are the barriers to communication, or we're not able to listen to the other person. And some person might have gathered a lot of guts to come up to you and share something. And when you don't offer that support to the person, that gives that
You're
person
busy correcting the grammar of the person. You're not going to help the communication.
That I have experienced a lot of times. Yeah, that happens. Like people start, even before you finished your own sharing, people start giving you advices. They negate your experiences, as you said. They start correcting you in all.
They tell you everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
All of the
And
except
then
listen to you.
now I want to take this to how listening can vary on the basis of gender. I've had my guy friends, I've had my girlfriends, and the way I've observed guys communicate is very different from the other gender. If a guy expresses that he's going through something, the other guy friends will say, "Oh, kuch nahi hota, are tu, just like ghoom ke aate hain, or just grab a drink or something, you will be okay." Whereas when girls sit together and they express, I think also girls are more open and expressive. I don't know if this is true, but I've seen this from my experience. They will sit down and talk. Not that they'll always listen to each other carefully. At least they will talk. They will give that space. But guys just like sweep it under the carpet. And over years, it just buries, and then it blasts or explodes in all different ways, in aggression, in other ways, on their partners, on their parents, stuff like that. So how do you see this? Is there a gendered difference when it comes to listening?
So it's interesting, right? Think about it this way. When we were talking earlier about emotional awareness amongst kids, what you said was, hey, I have a regret that kids are not taught this. Right. So if you're not taught that you have emotions, which you do, now there can be a generalization that we can bring in that, yes, boys don't cry, girls gossip. They would give you the detail of every bit of information, and you'll be like, oh my God, just tell me, did you not like it? Did you not enjoy the date? Why are you giving us all the food stuff that you ate and didn't like, and the wine you had and not had? Don't give us details and things like that. So we can have such generalizations, but in terms of being there, like I can give an example to the boy group that I have, right? Like the guys of the group. We don't necessarily act in this way.
Okay.
Right. In fact, I was in a guy way. I was threatened by my life to start talking when I had gone through a massive breakup, and I had kind of completely started isolating myself. Wasn't really reaching out to my friends and things like that. So yes, I had my collar pulled up and like, talk. Oh, you talk about whatever is happening and you talk it out now. Right. And by the time I finished, all the 8 of us, that's when I opened up, right? I looked up and I'm seeing all the other 8 guys are crying as well.
Oh, wow. Right? Okay.
So it's not necessary that this is the only way, but there is this propagation that this has to be the way.
Right.
And this is where we can possibly work on, right? If we have trained men or boys growing up that you are not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to show weakness, you are supposed to be the strong one, you're supposed to be the responsible one, you are supposed to be taking care of everyone, you cannot show this weakness, right? So you are essentially training them to be inhuman in that way, right? And again, I would like to bring us to the part where we get overwhelmed. We spoke about how crying can be overwhelmed, so can be shouting, so can physical violence as well. The person, if you are overwhelmed, can all of these things happen, even with girls?
Yeah.
Right? But then if we narrow it down to, hey, this is just a man being man, then that stereotyping never stops. right? Even now at this rate, yes, the coping skills that they have is atrocious, that we have been taught or not taught, right? Coping skills, how to express our emotions, not taught. When I'm feeling this way, can I do something with it? Not taught. I do not understand what to do. So what do? I don't know. I just go Hulk. And then afterwards, I'm sorry, I was angry. I didn't know what I was doing. I blacked out. Right? Yes, because the neural pathway has not been built for you to respond for the emotions that you're feeling. The idea is, if only we are able to help them find ways to express these things, you will have better ways, better communication happening as well. Not everyone to be that same way. Right now we are going through the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, where again now suddenly the whole world wants to accuse women of mental torture and all of that jazz, right? So we can, instead of maybe drawing out these broad strokes, trying to understand that every human being is behaving a particular way because they are trained in that way, or that is the training that they have received from life. If you really want to help, maybe start that conversation. See, what can we do from here on? This is where you are right now, right? Your life has got you here. What can we do now? Can we develop a language for feelings? Can we develop a language for expressing those feelings so that people are able to cope with these emotions and stressors and all those things that they are experiencing? Otherwise, you will have an entire generation of men who are only thinking that I'm an abuser. Do you really want an entire generation of men thinking they are abusers and carry that guilt into their life? Even this is not helpful. Right? So the idea is, without really victimizing or accusing people for what they are right now, as if that it is a choice for them, developing that empathy or even sympathy for that matter, that this is a result of their life experiences. And what can we do with them from here can be really helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely makes total sense. Very important. One thing that you brought up over and again throughout this conversation is lived experiences. How, when we are listening, respect has to be a part of listening. Respecting the other person, their experiences, their opinions, their feelings is very important. I am loving this conversation, and I have 100 more questions to ask because it's just so interesting and engaging. However, respecting the time, I would like to ask the audience if they had any questions before we went ahead. Would anyone like to ask Sachin any questions from your own experience or otherwise? You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. Whatever is okay. We have about 8 minutes before we wind up the session.
Good evening, sir.
Just call me Sachin, please. Thank you.
Hi, please go ahead.
Hi. Okay. Sir, मेरा if you understand Hindi.
जी, आपकी आवाज थोड़ी कम आ रही है.
अच्छा, 2 मिनट मैं. हेलो सर, अब आ रही है?
जी, बढ़िया आ रही है.
तो मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि मेरे कुछ फ्रेंड्स हैं, मैं पर्सनल बेसिस पे पूछ रहा हूँ, जिनको बेसिकली जो आपने कहते हैं ना स्टिग्मेटाइज कर दिया है इमोशंस रहना, राइट? सो यू हैव टू बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल एंड यू डोंट नीड टू हैव इमोशंस एंड दे आर ट्रेन्ड इन सच अ वे, दे डोंट इवन नो. जब भी मैं उनसे कुछ इमोशनल कन्वर्सेशन करता हूँ, दे आर जीरो, दे आर ब्लैंक्ड आउट. सो हाउ टू वर्क ऑन इट? I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be part of solution. How can I contribute to them knowing what emotions are and not just activating their, practical approach towards life rather than a balanced or a bit emotional with practical?
Now, Ayush, one of the first things you need to realize is we have absolutely no control over the other person. है ना? अगर आपको सुनना है उनके बारे में, नाउ लाइक वी सेड कि जब भी वो बात कर रहे हैं देयर इज द फैक्चुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन, वो काफी मीनिंग के साथ भी शायद बोल सकते हैं, आपसे बात कर सकते हैं, यार सब कुछ खत्म हो गया, कुछ भी करके मतलब नहीं है, राइट? नाउ व्हाइल व्हेन द पर्सन इज सेइंग समथिंग लाइक दिस, सब कुछ खत्म हो गया, इसका मतलब क्या है? आपको समझ में आया?
सर इसका मतलब ये है कि फिलहाल जो उसके बेबी स्टेप्स है उसमें उसको डार्कनेस ही दिख रही है,
ये
फ्यूचर
कहाँ
तो
से?
खैर गया, तो
बट यू
पास्ट
सी
का भी नहीं दिख
दिस कुड ऑल्सो बी कि आयुष, मैं आगे एक भी कदम नहीं चल सकता और सब कुछ
रहा। हाँ
खत्म
सर
हो
वही,
गया।
हाँ सर मैंने वही तो कहा कि बेबी स्टेप्स में डार्कनेस आ गई,
ये
फ्यूचर
अभी
तो गया
बेबी
गया बट
स्टेप्स
उसको
है कि
बेबी
उनके बड़े लाइफ का स्टेप है? ये आपको क्लासिफिकेशन मिला था कि ये आपने अज्यूम किया है?
नहीं सर, क्लासिफिकेशन दी गई थी मुझे मुझे बताया गया,
समझ?
मैं
ये
अज्यूम नहीं करता।
ये अज्यूम, हम में से बहुत ही बार ये अज्यूम कर लेते हैं कि उन्होंने जो कहा है उसका मतलब ये होगा, ठीक है ना? बट हमारा काम ये है कि जस्ट टू बी एबल टू सी कि यार तूने बोला सब कुछ खत्म हो गया, इसका मतलब क्या है तेरे लिए, रादर देन अज्यूमिंग एंड नोइंग क्या होगा। ये तो ऑब्वियसली यही बोल रहा है। जिस टाइम पे आपने ऑब्वियसली बोल दिया ना अपने दिमाग में, समझ जाना ये आप अज्यूम कर रहे हो कुछ ना कुछ। लेट द पर्सन एक्सप्लेन है। और वो अगर डिस्ट्रेस लग रहा है, यार सब कुछ खत्म हो गया, ओके, फर्स्ट चेकिंग विद देम, ठीक है तू तू कैसा है? हम ये जो आई डोंट वांट टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम, आई वांट टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द सॉल्यूशन, ये हमारे में इतना स्ट्रांग है काफियों में कि हम वो सॉल्यूशन ढूंढने के लिए भी चल पड़ते हैं। यार मेरा ब्रेकअप हो गया, वो छोड़ के चली गई, अरे कोई नहीं यार, आजा बैठते हैं, ये हो जाता है। व्हाट आर वी ट्राइंग टू डू? डिस्ट्रैक्ट द पर्सन, ट्राइंग टू गेट द पर्सन टू मूव अवे फ्रॉम दोस थॉट्स, ये सारे चीज करने, क्योंकि वी वांट टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द सॉल्यूशन। इंस्टेड, यार काफी टफ लग रहा है, तू कैसा है? गिविंग इट द सीरियसनेस, बीइंग जेन्युइन व्हेन वी आर आस्किंग दिस। यार तुम लोग काफी टाइम से साथ में थे, काफी दर्द हुआ होगा, कैसा है तू? व्हाट एम आई डूइंग हियर, राइट? तभी शायद वो आपको टाल भी दे, हाँ हाँ दर्द तो है यार बट क्या करें, अभी हो जाना है, चलो ठीक है। नो, वैसे सुनो थोड़ा सा इमोशनल आ रहा है, देख लो भागने चालू कर देते हैं, राइट? मे बी लेटिंग देम नो कि अगर सुन ले अभी तू कंफर्टेबल नहीं है तो कोई बात नहीं, बट अगर तुझे इसके बारे में बात करना हो तो मैं मुझसे बात कर सकता है ना। ये चीज जो तू दर्द अगर हो रही है तुझे, ये तुझे अकेले झेलने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, मैं हूं। क्या बात करूं, वो तो छोड़ के चली गई, थोड़ी ना वापस आएगी। हाँ, वापस आएगी नहीं आएगी ये सब कुछ भी हम नहीं जानते, बट तुझे कैसा लग रहा है फिलहाल, क्योंकि ये दर्द जो हो रहा है इसके बारे में आपको बात करना है। नॉट कि कभी छोड़ के गई, किसके साथ गई, ऊपर गई नीचे गई, ये डिटेल नहीं। तू कैसा है? जब छोड़ के गई, जब तुझे पता चला, तभी तुझे कैसा लगा? यार पूरा शॉक में चला गया था मैं, मुझे नहीं पता था कि वो क्या कर रही है, मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा था, मैं उठूं बैठूं खड़ा हूं सो जाऊं कुछ नहीं समझ में आया। अच्छा, पूरा बौखला गया था, हाँ, एकदम से पानी पीने नहीं हो रहा था मुझे। अच्छा, और यार फिर मुझे लगा कि भागना है, उसके पास जाना है, कुछ भी करके मनाना है ये वो, बट वो नहीं सुन रही थी यार। अच्छा, तो तब कैसा लगा? नहीं मान रही थी, राइट? व्हाट एम आई डूइंग हियर? इवन हियर it's not about getting more details, it is about getting ki how did that impact them, इसका आप पे असर क्या हुआ। and if they are not comfortable talking, no problem, don't judge them for that as well. नहीं नहीं मैं तेरा दोस्त हूं ना, बात तो करना ही पड़ेगा। you force them as well, they will be weird. Showing them that you are a patient person, showing them that they can trust you, showing them that मैंने अगर अपना vulnerable side यहाँ पे इनके सामने दिखाया, शायद ये मेरा मजाक नहीं होगा, जो भी मैं बताऊंगा इसे शायद वो सारी दुनिया को जाके नहीं बताएगा, पूरे ग्रुप ऑफ बॉयज में जाके नहीं बोलेगा कि कल देखो, कल राजेश कल बैठ के ना रो रहा था मेरे सामने पूरी गर्लफ्रेंड का स्टोरी सुना के। समझो लड़कों को कैसा वाला डर हो सकता है, क्या क्या डर हो सकता है। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, आर दे एबल टू ट्रस्ट यू? एंड ट्रस्ट ये सब बिल्ड होने के लिए हमें काफी काइंडनेस, काफी कंपैशन रखना पड़ता है। इट्स नॉट इन फाइंडिंग सोल्यूशन, It's just about letting them know that I'm here. इससे क्या हो जाएगा, कुछ अच्छा होगा, कुछ बुरा होगा, नहीं पता, बट मुझे इतना पता है कि मैं तुझे थोड़ा टाइम दे सकता हूँ. How do you feel about that, Ayush?
मैं आप डोंट टेक इट ऑन ऑफेंस, मैंने ये नहीं पूछा था कि मैं इम्पोज नहीं कर रहा सोल्यूशन, मैं सोल्यूशन इम्पोज नहीं कर रहा. दे मस्ट हैव द टाइम टू मूव फॉर देयर लॉस. बट मैं ये पूछा, उन्हें सिखाया ही है कि अपना दर्द मत बांटो, उन्हें सिखाया ये दिया गया कि अपना दर्द मन में रखो, अकेले सफर करो. पर मैंने सब कुछ कर लिया, ये नहीं इम्पोज किया, मैंने टाइम दे दिया, मैंने कंपैशन दी, मैंने एम्पैथी जब चाहे कॉल करा, बट ही इज सफरिंग इन साइलेंस एंड आई नो दैट. बट मैं ऐसे मूवी, ओए सुन तू मेरा दोस्त है, मैं जो मूवीज में जैसे आजकल से बहुत फेमस है, आई डोंट वांट यू टू सफर अलोन करके एक मेंटल प्रेशर दे दिया जाता है कि मैं उगल दूं, वो मैं नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि मैं भी कभी सिचुएशन में था. पर अनलाइक उसकी ट्रेनिंग की तुझे अकेले सफर होना है, अगर जो मर्द शेयर कर दे वो वीक होता है, तो वो ही सफरिंग अलोन. सो आई रियली वांट टू हेल्प हिम, बट मैं इम्पोज नहीं करना चाहता वो चीज जी. तो
बहुत सही है.
मैं कुछ कर सकता हूँ, मैं ये देख रहा हूँ, क्योंकि इम्पोजिशन इज उसको कैद करना होगा बेसिकली. आई विल बी जेलिंग हिम, और अगर मैं उसको बोल रहा हूँ कि देख दुख अकेले नहीं बांटा चाहिए, और एनी अदर मीन्स टू मेक हिम गिल्टी सो दैट ही शेयर्स, दैट्स आल्सो टॉक्सिक. एंड यूजिंग अदर एनी मेथड,
तो मुझे बताएगा, नहीं तो हमारी दोस्ती टूटी.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली, ये बहुत गंदी चीजें होती है, और ये मैं नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि मेरे साथ भी हुआ है. अगर मेरे साथ कुछ हुआ है, कोई मेरा दोस्त ऐसा बोल रहा है, मैं उसको कट ऑफ करना पसंद करूंगा रादर देन उसको बताना. तो आई वांट टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ द सॉल्यूशन. आई मीन कि मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ. अभी ये सब तो सोसाइटी के ट्रिक्स जो है देखने को मिलते हैं, बट मैं क्या करूँ.
आयुष, अगर आप मुझसे कोई, ये जो है ना, ये चीज है, ये एक प्रोसेस है, समझ रहे हो, जिसमें आपको काफी पेशेंस लगेगा. कि अभी आप बोल रहे हो कि देखो सचिन, ये काफी अपने आप को आइसोलेट कर रहे हैं, ये बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, इनके इमोशंस नहीं बता रहे हैं, फलाना. ऑलराइट, maybe next time you're speaking to them, tell them that I am a bit worried about you because you have been isolating them. आप हमसे बात नहीं कर रहे हो आजकल, घुल मिल नहीं रहे हो, और ये जो आप चीज से गुजर रहे हो, ये मुझे पता है कि काफी दर्द वाला है. मैं सिर्फ आपको यही बताना चाहूंगा कि जब भी आपको लगे कि ये दर्द बढ़ गया है और आपको बात करना है इसके बारे में, नॉट कि कोई सोल्यूशन निकालना है, नॉट कि अभी के अभी जाके उसको उठाना है या कुछ भी, जस्ट इसके बारे में बात भी करना है, मैं हूं. एंड दिस कॉन्फिडेंस इज समथिंग दैट वी कैन कीप ऑन बिल्डिंग. आज बात नहीं करना है, कोई बात, थोड़ा देर टाइम साथ में स्पेंड करें. हाँ, तुझे कुछ बात करने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, थोड़ी देर साथ में रह लेते हैं, थोड़ी देर साथ में बैठ लेते हैं, कुछ नहीं. Right? What is needed for people who are going through pain is knowing that there is someone. First, main thing, somebody cares. This brings in a lot of comfort as well. वो उसे यूज करे ना करे, वो उनकी चॉइस है, हम उनका चॉइस चेंज नहीं कर सकते. राइट? वो आज आप बैठ के उनका इतने साल का जो ट्रेनिंग है आप एक दिन में निकाल नहीं सकते. All we can keep on doing is reassure them कि मैं हूं. आज बात नहीं करना है, कोई बात नहीं. दिस इज नॉट, हमारी दोस्ती भी खराब नहीं होगी. मैं जानता हूं कि शायद ये चीज से गुजरते वक्त बात करना भी डिफिकल्ट है, ये भी उनको बता दे. एंड तुझे बात नहीं करनी है, कोई नहीं, थोड़ी देर हम टाइम स्पेंड कर सकते हैं साथ में. ऐसे नहीं कि चलो पीने जाते हैं, चलो ये कर लेते हैं, चलो पूरी मारते हैं, नहीं, जस्ट बीइंग एबल टू स्पेंड टाइम. दिस लेवल ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस यू कैन डेवलप, and you never know where that can lead to. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are no special tricks that we can do. It is a part where we have to be patient. But I'm really glad that आप वो जो toxic positivity जो हम करते हैं normally, आप वो नहीं कर रहे हो आयुष. So I'm really happy to hear that.
सर क्योंकि मेरे साथ हो रखा है, क्योंकि मैं सर मुझे एक्चुअली मल्टीपल एलर्जीज हैं, तो मुझे ये सुनने में आया छुओ मत एलर्जी हो जाएगी इसको, या फिर आंख बंद कर लो, भूल जाओ कि आपको एलर्जी है, भले ही रैश आ रहे हैं, भले आपको स्नीजेस आ रहे हैं, भले आंखों से आंसू आ रहे हैं, भले तकलीफ हो रही है, भूल जाओ कि आपको बीमारी ठीक हो जाएगी. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स आई हैव हर्ड. सो but sir, thanks a lot, that answered a lot of questions.
Thank you, Ayusham, for asking that question. Yeah, and thank you, Sachin. That was comprehensive and that like totally answered the question. And I hope बाकियों को भी अगर ऐसे similar questions होंगे, so that answered their queries as well. Something also related to that question. So I've had one of my friends who's gone through a breakup recently, and when we're talking about that, and I have offered to hear him about 4 to 5 times. We went on walks. We've sat together and he's talked at length, cried, poured out, but he's still stuck. 4 to 5 times that has happened. He's also spoken to another friend of mine. He's expressed, but he's not able to move on. And now I feel that I do not have enough energy to face him again, or like not face, but like listen to him again or offer those services, because it drains my energy, because it's not a very happy thing to hear about. So now he's cutting off from the entire friend circle and he's with himself. What do we do now when you've tried your best to listen to the other person? You don't want to offer solutions because you don't want to be that person giving unsolicited advice. What next?
Okay. So one of the unfortunate things we end up doing is end up giving promises like तुझे जब भी जरूरत होगी मुझे call कर लियो. I'll be there with you no matter what. These are promises you cannot keep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So even setting honest expectations. Now, for this particular person, think about this, right? If any, and this may not just be for you, for others in the group who may have had the luck of having had a breakup, right? Now, for those of us who have had the breakup, in fact, if you are lucky enough to have multiple breakups, right? Think about it. If you haven't gone through it yourself, someone else that you have experienced. Now, did all the breakups take the same amount of time for you to heal? No, right? There is a breakup that happened and it took me a month to get better, to just start being normal with myself. But then there is a breakup, even before the breakup, I had gotten over the relationship. Right? And then there is a breakup where I'm having the pain even 2 years after, and multiple relationships I've had. Even then, I'm suffering from that breakup, which happened in July 2014. Right? So is there a way or timeline or guideline that we have for getting out of breakups? No. Right? But what we can try to do is increase the number of people that the person has as a support system so that it all doesn't just fall on you. You can try to include more people. Hey, I am here, but let's try and add more people so that you are able to have multiple sources you can get it out.
Right.
When the person is sharing, don't just stay with the story, because a lot of us can end up repeating, going on a loop with the story, same thing. यार छुड़ के चली गई यार, पहले 10 साल से हम साथ में थे, हमने बच्चों का नाम भी डाल दिया, ये हो गया, right? All the details and you're like, यार मैंने ये सुन लिया है और मैं 50वें बार सुन रहा हूँ और I am getting stressed now. But you see, for a lot of people who are going through grief, and yes, even with a breakup, you can have a grief.
Okay.
Right? Life that you had already planned, it is kind of destroyed.
Right.
It is a loss. Right? And a lot of times you can go into this repetition mode and things like that. So taking support for yourself, if you are in a supportive capacity for someone else, making sure that you are taking support for yourself. If this has been causing you compassion fatigue for that matter, making sure aap apna kuan bhi bharo. You get it out of your system as well, so that you are able to be there. Maybe with the person, try to have conversations that are not just the story, but also their feelings. कि ये छोड़ के गई, तो हर चीज के साथ उनका feeling क्या है? Let them also be able to see that. Try to talk about things that is happening currently, right now. How are they today? Yes, they can talk about what happened. This happened and I've been stalking their Instagram and it's not working and she blocked me there as well, falana. Okay, sure. How is that making you feel? Today, now. Right? So what that helps the person do is also it helps in the grounding for the person, that they are able to connect with how they are right now, not just constantly living in the past, right? How are you now? Talk about how was your day today? how are your days going to be looking like from here? What are your thoughts about that? Because they still have to live their life. They still have the responsibilities and duties and functions and all those things that they have to do. वो बंद नहीं हो गया because a relationship has stopped. They still have to do all of those things. How are they dealing with them? How are they coping with them? Right? And try to get them to speak more about their feelings as well while they're at it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very helpful actually, and I'll surely practice that next time. Thank you. Can I ask you one final question before we wrap up?
Sure,
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay. This is one thing. A lot of times when it comes to listening, हम हमेशा ये पूछते कि हमें कैसे दूसरों को सुनना है, what is right for us. So we are always learning it so that we can practice it with others. But a lot of times what happens is we are offering that services to others, not service, but like we are there for others. But when it comes to us, we don't find anyone. And
is it you don't find anyone or you haven't tried to find it? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it could vary from person to person, but a lot of times, like what I've like observed from people around and myself, I've found that we don't have a listener. We don't know who to go to when like we are overwhelmed or we are full. We don't know who will not judge us, who will just listen, who will not start giving us advices and correcting us and all of that. Who will just listen, and we don't find anyone. What to do then?
Okay. Don't wait for you to have that. Now, what do I mean by this? आप सेब घर में सेब लाने तक आपने चाकू कहाँ है देखा नहीं. अभी सेब आ गई है तो अभी आप चाकू ढूंढ रहे हो. What do I mean? Right? Is this something like, this is a simple exercise, you can take it for yourself, all of you, as a small homework. Write down 5 people, name 5 people that you trust right now. Think about it. And let that not be a 2-minute activity. Think about this, about the different people you have had the pleasure of meeting, the different people that are there in your life. Not just जिससे आपकी रोज बात होती है. Not just that. Think, spend time over this. Are there other people that I can trust? Now, when I say trust, right, they may be different types of people. There can be someone who is very compassionate. There can be someone who always gives solution and all of these things. Now, ये जो condition है, ये तो आप उनको बोल सकते हो, यार आज मैं जब बात करूंगी ना, मुझे कोई solution मत देना, थोड़ी देर सिर्फ सुन लेना. The point is, do you trust them to listen to you? That is where the trust comes in, right? So first, find out 5 people that you can write down. Like, okay, this person I do trust. This person I do trust. Let them know this as well. Hey, by the way, I wanted to let you know, like I was doing this exercise about 5 people that I trust, and I thought you are one of them. Let them know that they hold a special place in your life, that you do trust them, right? So when you're going through stuff, when you're overwhelmed with things, that time your brain doesn't work. That time you're not going to be able to really recollect exactly who all to kind of come to unless you have that kind of a relationship. Right? So 5 people you trust, write them down. नहीं सचिन यार मेरे तो कोई दोस्त ही नहीं है, कैसे मैं किसको trust करूं? Then you need to start investing your time in building that trust with someone, so that you can have someone for you when you need that. How can you build that trust? By first offering it to others as well, right? When you say that I'm happy to be there for you and will you be there for me too? Let them know, rather than just listening to everyone and not putting any expectation. सारा expectation हम हमारे दिमाग में रखते हैं. यार मैंने उस दिन इससे इतना मैंने बात किया, इसका सारा प्रॉब्लम सुन लिया, बट मैं इसको जब भी कॉल करती हूँ तभी ये मेरा कुछ भी नहीं सुनता. Right? Does the person know this? Or have you portrayed to the whole world that I am the best listener? I don't care about, मेरे लाइफ में कोई प्रॉब्लम्स होती नहीं है तो मैंने कुछ बात करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. The person themselves will put you on a pedestal. यार ये तो भगवान है, इसको क्या प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है मेरे जैसे तुच्छ इंसान से बात करने लायक, right? So first of all, we need to get off the pedestal ourselves as well, that we may be really good at helping others, but we need help. Noting down these people, who they are. If you do not have the practice, reach out to people. Another exercise that you can try and do today, reach out to some of these people, message them. Always ask them for permission as well, though. Some of us have that problem कि हम पूछते ही नहीं, सीधे चालू हो जाते हैं हमारे स्टोरी लेके और सामने वाला मैं मीटिंग में हूँ, right? So first check with someone that you trust. Hey, do you have 10 minutes? I would just like to talk about how my last week was. Nothing big, nothing small. Let them know this is what I want to just talk about how my last week was. If they, and let me know if you have the time and the mind space to do this. If they say yes, great. Call them. For a lot of you, it may be difficult. क्या बात करूं last week के बारे में? Because you have never tried it. So first, get these things into practice. Try talking to someone. Spend those 10 minutes with them. Thank them. Hang up. Now don't go start asking them how are you, because हम में से बहुत जन ये भी हैं, हम बात करने शुरू कर लेते हैं, but उसके बीच में या वो तो चल रहा है, but how are you? They will start talking then. And inside you will be like, मैंने ये जानबूझ के नहीं पूछा था, I was just offering you some space. अभी तूने पूरा बात करने शुरू कर लिया. The person does not know these things. They will need help to understand who you are. How do you talk? So being communicative on that as well. Right? 10 minutes सुनना है. And by the way, if they say, no, I'm not free, or no, I do not have the mind space, don't start hating on them. It just means that they are being honest to you.
Honest, right.
And appreciate that. Thank you for your honesty. Or would you rather them be so tired or so occupied that they are not able to listen to you and you're going to get more upset? Right? So you will have to train this amongst your people that you trust, that they are your help givers. Let them know that as well. Not as a responsibility, nahi tujhe meri jaan bachani hai wali types, but letting them know that there is an important place for them. That when I reach out to them, I'm not possibly looking for a solution. So you don't have to worry about helping me out or anything. Most often than not, मैं अगर ये सब निकाल दूंगी कचरा अपने दिमाग से, मैं settle हो जाती हूँ. But letting them know how you operate, let them help you, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for answering all those questions, for taking out your time for us today. We will be sharing this recording and we'll be uploading this on various platforms so that we can reach out to more people and more people can learn the art of listening, of understanding other people, because that is the need of the hour. And I hope all of us today got to learn something new, had our queries answered. And I'm sure you enjoyed this session by Sachin, listening to him. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and spending your Sunday evening with us. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the evening. And with this, we end the REvolve series for 2022. REvolve was an initiative of and a series of online sessions by expert speakers. And with that, we were also doing offline events. We have successfully done events in Karnal, in Bardhaman, in Bengal, in Jaipur, and in Mumbai. And there's one underway happening in Chandigarh very soon. So these are all events being led by different volunteers for Sarthi in different cities. And we have youth, we have people from all ages coming over, participating in those activities, being part of it and getting aware of how we need to talk about mental health. So all of you are, agents of change. You people are very powerful, and I hope you people take this message forward too. Thank you so much again for being here, and have a great time. Thank you so much, Sachin, again.
Thank you, Sanjoli, and both of you, Ananya and you, are doing a fantastic job, and I hope you are able to continue with this motivation and passion that you guys have, and I hope and wish all the success for you both.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. We'll be in touch with you. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.